Thanks for joining me on Strategy, Solutions, and Sanity. This is a show for business owners and consultants who are done letting chaos run the show and want to get out of the weeds. I'm Sam, a no-fluff strategist who believes that business should be simple, human, and even fun. These QuickCasts are short, sharp doses of strategy and action because a lot of times in business we don't need a total overhaul. We just need to know a few small tweaks that we can make to bring our sanity back, get us out of chaos, and get back to running our business with confidence. So let's dive into it. Today, I'm going to break down some subtle signs that you might resent your business. Now, I posted about this on LinkedIn recently, and I wanted to clarify that you don't have to totally hate your business for resentment to be creeping in. So, especially for high achievers, if you're like me and you actually really enjoy working, when people tell you to slow down, you're like, I'm good, like you have a million more ideas, then resentment shows up in quieter ways because you are never going to feel like I want to burn it all down. You're never going to feel like, okay, I'm done. What am I doing? Like I want to just walk away. But the key here is that resentment is going to pop up in small moments that end up feeling heavier than they should. And the reason why I want to focus on this for this quick cast was because I've had several clients come to me and kind of start explaining the issues that they're feeling in their business and kind of the weight that they feel, and they can't quite put it into words. And when I say, well, are you starting to resent parts of your business? They're like, yeah, that's it. And they just don't realize that that's what's happening. And when you are starting to have those little seeds of resentment, that is a sign that something in the business is not right. It is a small crack in the foundation. And if you leave it unchecked, that fracture is going to turn into a huge gap and huge crack that is going to destabilize the business if you continue to grow and scale. Now, on another side of that, resentment could actually lead to you being in a plateau in the business because you do lose some of this visionary spark. You lose some of the creative strategy that has gotten you to where you are now. It just is not what you should be experiencing in business. Like I said in my intro, I think business can be fun. It doesn't mean that every day is going to be sunshiny, glittery rainbows, but overall there should be enjoyment and excitement that you experience with your business. And if you're not feeling that, then hey, something needs to shift a little bit. So I want to break down some of those subtle signs that you actually do resent your business and something needs to change. The first sign that you might be resenting your business is that every task feels a little bit heavier than it should. So by this, I mean, like if a team member or a client asks you a question, there's a little bit of like a sigh and an eye roll. You don't quite feel like you want to lash out because you know that like that's not good leadership, you know that's not going to be good for your client relationship, but a part of you wants to just be like, you should already know this, or like, why am I dealing with this? There's just an annoyance there with something that is somewhat mundane and simple and like easy to do and move forward with. So that's a sign that like you're probably involved in parts of the business that you've outgrown and don't need to be involved in. And this also kind of leads into sign number 2, and this is procrastination of important tasks. So you drag your feet on tasks that need to get done. You know that these tasks are important, that they have a benefit for the business. There's a reason why you do them, but you just don't feel like doing them anymore. So sign 1 and sign 2 here kind of go together, but these are signs that you have outgrown that area of the business, and probably means that you need to start building out your team or delegating better if you already have a team. But if your role in the business does not continue to be refined as the business grows, and by that I mean you are elevating your position in the business and are responsible for maybe more important things but less overall individual tasks. That's kind of the evolution of what a owner to real CEO seat should look like. There's a refinement there. If that's not happening, then you're being bogged down by tasks that you have outgrown. At one point in time, it made sense for you to do those things. You didn't mind doing those things. It's not beneath you. It's just not really worth your time anymore. And those are seeds and little fractures of resentment that are popping up in your day-to-day work. The third sign that you're starting to resent in your business is you're starting to lean into some comparison. You end up second guessing yourself when you see your competition. You kind of forget the concept that social media is just everyone's best face forward. And you forget that, like, hey, everyone has their own shit going on. Everyone's got like mess or dirt that you don't see. But because you have these little seeds of resentment, you start to think, oh, what am I missing? Why does it seem so easy for them? Like, what am I doing wrong? And there's some doubt and some confusion and frustration there. And it might not seem big, but it's just little thoughts that start out at first. And you're comparing yourself a little too closely to the competition rather than focusing on, like, okay, how can you in the business be better today? Side number 4 is that the fun parts don't feel as fun anymore. This is going to be really common if you are experiencing signs 1 and 2. So maybe you're over involved in things that you have outgrown. And you're still involved in the fun stuff, the stuff that makes sense for you to do, the stuff that you enjoy in the business. You're still involved in those things, but because of these other pieces of resentment, those fun things don't feel as good anymore. So the strategy, the vision casting, even engaging with your team, maybe that felt really good before, but maybe that just feels more flat and obligatory now. It's not that you resent your team or that you don't like your team. It's just that you just don't light up as much when you do engage with them as maybe you once used to. And sign number 5 here is that your wins get brushed off. This sign is going to be more for people that are used to celebrating wins. I don't experience this sign as much because I'm really bad at celebrating my small wins. And so in general, I tend to brush some accomplishments off because I'm like, okay, we got to focus on the next thing. But there are some people that were kind of always good at saying, like, oh yeah, it's awesome that I did this thing. Here's like the small win. They have more of that gain mindset. If you know Dan Sullivan's The Gap and the Gain book, people that had more of that gain mindset, that they are good at celebrating the wins. When you start to resent your business, you're going to start to feel sign 5 here, maybe more than others would, and those small wins will feel brushed off. So let's say you land a big fish client or you finish some cool deliverable, you hit a milestone in the business that you were working really hard to, your first thought is going to go more into that gap mindset, which is something I struggle with in general, but you're thinking, okay, what's next? Like, okay, that's cool, but whoop-de-doo. And you don't have that level of excitement anymore. Success starts to feel more like a weight on your shoulders rather than this thing to be celebrated. Those are the 5 signs that if you were to take a step back, like, maybe you are really experiencing that in the business, and they're likely going to be subtle. You're probably not going to experience all of them at once. You might just be experiencing maybe 2 to 3 of them. But those are your signals. Those are your yellow flags. Like, hey, something needs to change here. We are not on the best course. We need to evolve, pivot, adapt. It could be you have too many administrative focused tasks on your plate. Maybe you haven't fully equipped your team to lead and problem solve, so you're dealing with way too many fires than you should be. Or maybe you just have overpacked your schedule and you don't have enough white space on your calendar to really think and be creative and to pour your all into those fun parts of the business. There's a lot of different reasons why this could be happening. And based on that, there's different shifts that could happen for you to get out of this place. So if you are recognizing any of these signs in your own business, don't take it as a failure. Just take it as, again, your sign that something needs to shift and that you need to prioritize working on the business and reflecting a bit before you focus on the next thing in business. And if you know that one of the reasons you're starting to resent the business is because you have too many little tasks on your plate, then you might consider working with a US-based virtual assistant. We have administrative, executive, and operations assistants on our teams that are super adept and skilled at working with the high achievers, high performers of the business world and meticulously getting those things off of your plate so you can have more fun and really sit in that CEO seat that you want to be in. But if you're not ready to delegate, then just take the time to reflect and reprioritize what you're focused on in the business. All right, that's it for this week's QuickCast, and I'll catch you next time on Strategy, Solutions, and Sanity.